Hari. Hari Hari Bol. That's good, huh? So, I'm unveiling the book. And yes, I selected Ras Panchadhyay after deeply thinking, but it's not only Ras Panchadhyay. I'm going to connect various other books of Gurudev's to the Ras Panchadhyay. Which books? Manasiksha. And also Venugit. This morning I was reading Srila Gurudev's Venugit introduction. And I can tell you, and this is after from 1995 when we edited Gurudev's book. So how many years ago is that now? That's almost 30 years. Yeah. From that time till now, this introduction that Srila Gurudev wrote for the Venugit, it's immortalized. How he presented the topic of hearing Rasakatha, of hearing Ras Lila Katha in particular. In there he gives all praman and evidence. And at that time, that was very revolutionary. That was just the year before Gurudev went to the West. 1 year before. But of course, he was already immersed for decades in this nectar. But now, very concisely, he put forward the understanding of who is eligible. Eligibility is the main topic of his Venugit introduction. So that's very, very interesting because I was also reading the introduction to Gurudev's Ras Panchadhyay book, which Gurudev himself wrote. So that Venugit introduction connects very nicely with this introduction. And then in the introduction, Srila Gurudev is referring to a very, very famous section, which he quotes in various places, multiple times, from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, where he's describing in the 4th chapter of Adi Lila, toward the end of the chapter. And he's mentioning how these topics, really, these are so confidential. And really, they should not be openly displayed. But then, there's a group of verses, which I'm going to read, where Kaviraj Goswami is expressing that if it is not told, then that will also not be good. But then he puts forward that in actuality, these topics themselves are automatically barred entry by their very nature, those who are not eligible, they're automatically unable to understand this. And then he says, what could give me greater joy than this? That I'm so worried about presenting this, and really, even my intelligence is telling me that it really should not be presented openly because of the fact that there are so many unqualified persons who will not understand it properly. But then he says, but the fact of the matter is that it is automatically impenetrable for those persons. They cannot enter. They're barred entry. So, what could be a source of greater joy than this? He says. So, what I decided to do in all these months of living here in Sri Navadvip Dham and doing the studies that I'm doing, the bhajan that I'm trying to do, but this topic of Ras Panchadhyaya is calling out to me that I must read this. Because also the way that Srila Gurudev has presented these 5 chapters of Ras Leela, he has presented the commentaries of the famous Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, accepted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then also Srila Jiva Goswami, and also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now, of course, we have Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's full commentary on the 10th canto, nicely presented by a translation of Bhanu Swami and some proper editing. But yet, when Srila Gurudev is presenting, we will see, because he's also presenting his Bhava Anuvad of everything. So this will be a very exciting journey. I'm only sad that some of our listeners will not be able to continue to stay here in the coming months, because this is not going to take just days or a few classes. And I intend to branch out also into various other books of Srila Gurudev's which connect with this, like Gopi Geet, or the Venu Geet itself, Gurudev's commentary on Venu Geet. The 5 songs. Oh, we need a chair for Madhusudana. We need 2 chairs, actually.
No.
More comfortable. We'll bring another chair. You can put your leg up. Yeah? Okay. Yes. But I do intend to film this live on Facebook Live, which I've always been doing, more or less. And also, Madhavi, she is filming it full in English, the whole, without the Russian translation. But then she's also compiling a English version of the video with the Russian translation.
I will.
What?
I will.
Yeah, that means she is doing and she will do. It's a big task, actually. So I think that this will be beneficial. I know that it's going to be beneficial for me. That's the main thing. Because I need this. I really do need this nectar. And somehow I'm going to have to bring that nectar into my ears, into my heart, and try to enter this pathway. It is not an easy thing. Definitely not an easy thing. What Gurudev has given, what he has really worked and labored very, very hard to give in his books especially. This is the greatest treasure. This is the treasure that our Rupanuga Sampradaya are coming to this world to give. And he has, more or less, he has completed that very great task. Of course, it's never really fully completed. No, don't. What?
Very cold. She asked to.
Cold?
Yeah.
No, that's the only fan that we have going.
Oh, okay.
So we can. But we can turn it down. That one has a control? Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that you would all be cold. I'm usually the one that's cold. Always, not usually.
lots of places where there's no fan.
I already mentioned earlier that we're going to redo the electronics. It's going to be brought out from there to here, and then we're going to put the controls also for the speed of the fan. Because now the hot season is just around the bend. I mean, literally, within the next few days, it's going to be very hot. But luckily, this timing is good for this side of the building, so we'll be okay. But if this is in the afternoon time, then it will be very hot. Okay. So, what was that last point that I was making? Yeah, what Gurudev labored so hard to give. And all of our acharyas. So, I'm always, I'm always challenged by this task of actually researching this, of actually consuming what they have come to give. It's very daunting, you know. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj, he also mentioned in the beginning, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I know that the older devotees will remember this quote. He says, the student of the Absolute Truth is always overwhelmed with the task of researching the truth. That's from way back when I first became a devotee, and we noticed this. Overwhelmed with the task of researching the truth. And researching the truth means what? It means reading it, studying it, trying to do bhajan and enter it. So that, you know, it's one thing to read the Ras Panchadhyay with the commentaries, but it's another thing to apply it in our own bhajan life. And although we're unqualified, I am absolutely, definitely unqualified, although this is the case. But nevertheless, what Gurudev says in the Venu Gita, which I'm going to read today, his introduction, is the elixir of immortality. He gives hope where there is hopelessness. You remember how Srila Gurudev many times, especially during Kartik Parikrama, and especially during the first early few years after he went to the West, and a lot of Western devotees were coming. And Gurudev would churn all the incredible Vraj Katha, Leela Katha, everything. He would churn it. And he would know exactly what he's doing also, to everybody's heart. And he could see, and the expressions on the faces of the devotees also revealed what was their dilemma that they felt that they were facing, right? And what did Gurudev say? He looked at everyone and he said, don't be hopeless. And as soon as Gurudev said that, then everybody, okay. There is so much hope, Gurudev is telling. So I want to attempt to do this because there are so many. I've spent the last year here and I've gone over a few different books and so forth, like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. I spent some time with that book. But I was covering the very elementary introductory parts of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But now I want to go into the essential nectar that Gurudev has come to give us all. And what could be more essential than Ras Panchadhyay? Huh? Gurudev said, without these 5 chapters, which are the 5 life heirs from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 5 pranas, without these 5 chapters, he said 10th canto is nothing special. You know? And that's pretty much a very shocking statement because there's also so much in all the rest of the 10th canto. But yet, he makes such a statement like that. We should try to understand the context of this. Why? Because Mahaprabhu has given the Srimad Bhagavatam as the praman. Srimad Bhagavatam pramanam amalam. It is the spotless evidence. We cannot enter into the whole pantheon of Vedic knowledge without the essence of all Vedic knowledge, Srimad Bhagavatam. And if one simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, then he's getting the essence of all Vedic knowledge. No need to read everything else. So, I just forgot to put this. Go live. Face to be blocked. So we'll do a very little short kirtan, and then we'll begin our swimming lessons. How to swim in the unlimited ocean of Ras Panchadhyaya. As you like.
Okay. Just how much?
Radha Kunda Tata.
Okay. ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। नमो विष्णुपदाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदांत नारायण इति नामने। श्री कृष्ण लीला कथने सुदक्षम औदौर्य माधुर्य गुणैश्च युक्तम वरम वरेण्यम पुरुषम महांतम नारायणं तं शिरसा नमामि। त्रिदण्डिनां भक्त शिरोमणिं च श्री कृष्ण पादाब्ज धृतैक हृदि चैतन्य लीलामृत सार सार नारायणं तं सततं प्रपद्ये। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोस्वामी इति नामिने। वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नित्यानन्दं नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानंद प्रदायने कलौ कल्मषनाशाय जानवापतये नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तवतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकांचन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जयतं श्रुतो बंगो मम मंदमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्बोजो राधामदनमोहनो। दिव्याद्वृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमधा श्रीमद्रत्नगार सिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवो पृष्ठादिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि। श्रीमन्रासरसारम्भी वंशीवतततक्षितः कर्षणवेणु स्वनैर्गोपीर् गोपीनाथ श्रियेष्टुनः भक्त्या विहीन अपराधलक्षै किप्तश्च कामारि तरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। वृन्दाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवचाय नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatarasata Sri Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, who gave the Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam to the whole world, who gave the postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, to the whole world, who gave Srila Rupa Goswami's summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, and so many other important shastras. And he traveled the world and converted thousands of conditioned souls into Vaishnavas. So I pray at his lotus feet for his causeless mercy that we can attempt to now enter into these essential literatures, especially Sri Rasa Panchadhyay, the 5 chapters of the Rasa Leela that were performed by Sri Krishna in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Ashtatarasata Sri Shila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatarasata Sri Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who has given us this book, Ras Panchadhyay, and numerous other important literatures by our Rupanuga Acharyas. My Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga and to my Siksha Guru Varga, and my Dandavat pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and all of the Vaishnavis who have come to attend these classes, where we are going to attempt to enter into the essential teachings for all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who wish to become successful in this human form of life and attain the great gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu have brought to this world, the highest Krishna Prem, Raja Prem, Unata Ujjvala Prem Ras, Swabhakti Shriyam Prem, everything. And so it's all given by our Gurudev in his books. So, to begin with, as I mentioned, we have the introduction to the Venugita. I'm going to touch upon that, and also, wait, one second. I have to adjust this so the screen doesn't keep going off. So, before I go into the Venugita, I just want to read a few words of Srila Gurudev in his introduction for this Ras Panchadhyay, to lead into that. This was written by Srila Gurudev in 2008, October. which was actually, he's dedicated this book on the disappearance day of his Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Swami Maharaj, 14th October 2008. It is our great pleasure to present this edition of Ras Panchadhyay, taken from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This book is born out of the causeless mercy and inspiration of our most worshipable Guru Pada Padma, Acharya Keshari, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtotarashata, Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. We have included our Acharya's commentaries, Srila Sridhar Swami Pad's, called Bhavarta Deepika, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted. Srila Jiva Goswami's Sangshep Vaishnav Toshani, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sar Artha Darshani. And furthermore, we have written our own Bhav Anuvad explanation based on the three Acharyas' elucidations. There were many Bengali translations of these three commentaries, but there was nothing in Hindi. So I hope that the Hindi-speaking public will be able to relish our Ras Panchadhyay with the commentaries. And now, of course, the English-speaking public. And soon after that, the Russian-speaking public should get a translation. I'm calling out to the translators, translate this book. Soon, quickly. It is needed by the whole world, and especially by the Russian devotees, who I know so well. So now Gurudev says, a few years ago, I spoke a series of lectures on Sri Ras Panchadhyay, along with its commentaries. And after hearing these deliberations, my audience again and again requested me to publish these in book form in Hindi. So I could not refuse them. I do not know how this turned out. Only the readers can judge. The Padma Purana confirms that Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana is the very embodiment of Hokshaja Bhagavan Sri Nandanandana. So older devotees will be familiar with this quote from the Padma Purana, which is describing in about 8 verses. I'll just read a little bit of that. Pado yadiyo pratama dvitiyo tritya turyo katito yaduru nabishtata panchama eva shashto bhajantaram doryugalam tataryo. So, translation of this. I worship the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is from Padma Purana. I worship the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the bridge for crossing the ocean of repeated birth and death. You know what that word is? Yes, that's at the end of this. Apara samsara samudra setum bhajamahe bhagavatam swarupam. So, apara samsara means this endless ocean of samsara. Samudra setum means the bridge to cross this ocean. Bhajamahe bhagavatam swarupam. I worship that Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and this Bhagavatam being the bridge for crossing the ocean of repeated birth and death, it has appeared for the benefit of all beings as the literary incarnation of Sri Krishna. We used to say this all the time. that this Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Yes? And that's a fact. Padma Purana is stating this. Now it's going to tell exactly how it is Krishna's own body, his own form. None other than his own body and form is Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it is a literary incarnation of Sri Krishna. He is the origin of all the gods. He is the storehouse of mercy. And he is black like the tamal tree. Srimad Bhagavatam consists of 12 cantos, which correspond to the 12 different limbs of the Lord's body. Now, we've all heard this before. So I'm going to test all of you. The first and second canto are his lotus feet. The third and fourth canto are his thighs. The fifth canto is his navel. The sixth canto is his chest and his mighty shoulders. The seventh and eighth cantos are his arms. The ninth canto is his throat. The 10th canto is his blooming lotus face. The 11th canto is his forehead. And the 12th canto is his head. So in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana, chapters 29 through 33 are known as the Sri Ras Panchadhyaya. In the very beginning of his commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has proclaimed these 5 chapters to be the 5 life heirs of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who has declared that? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. There are 2 types of Ras Leela. Did you know that? That there's 2 types of Ras Leela? Nitya and Maha. I bet no one in this room heard that before, because I didn't. When I read it last night, no, I never heard that before. Nitya and Maha. Now, the Adi Purana mentions the Nitya Ras. The Adi Purana mentions the Nitya Ras. And the Srimad Bhagavatam describes Maharas. Again, Maharas is divided into 2. What is that? Sharadiya, the autumnal, in the autumn. Where do we find that? In this Ras Panchadhyaya. That is describing the Saradiya Ras. And the other of the 2 Maharas is called what? Vasanta Ras. Springtime. But where do we find that? Where do we find that one? Yes. So, actually Ras Leela takes place every full moon night. Do you know that? There's not a full moon night that's going to go by where Krishna is going to waste the opportunity. Okay? And that's why when we go on Braj Mandala Parikrama, I can tell you that we understood that the Ras Leela happened in Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna and all that, what is described in the 5 chapters. But then, as we started to go to various other outlying places all throughout Braj Mandala, what do you find in Kamyavan? What do you find in all the different forests? Ras Leela, Stalis, and what do they call? Mandaps, like a swing type, like an archway, marking that Ras Leela took place here. So don't think that Krishna is only going to dance in his youth. One Ras Leela in the autumn season, and then another in the springtime season. No, it will happen continually. Continually. Now, so actually Ras Leela takes place every full moon night. But only Sharadiya and Vasanta have been recorded in the Shastras. Sharadiya Ras is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Gita Govinda gives an account of Vasanta Ras. Who gave us both of these books? Gurudev gave us the Gita Govinda also. So the subject matter of the book in hand is the Sharadiya Ras. Bhagavan performs his pleasure-filled pastimes to bestow mercy upon his devotees. Indeed, he has manifested this Ras Leela to show special favor to those who have taken shelter of Madhur Ras. His amorous pastimes, Madhur Ras, hearing about the sweet moods of the Madhur Ras gopis, the devotees become inspired to enter Rag Marg Bhajan, the path of spontaneous devotion under the guidance of the gopis. So this is a very, very important paragraph here. Why does Krishna perform all of his pleasure-filled pastimes? What is the reason? You'll also see in the Venugita introduction, Gurudev goes extensively into this. There are various reasons, but the main number one reason is to do what? Yes, is to give mercy, to bestow mercy upon his devotees. Which devotees? Especially his own eternal Nitya Parikar. So indeed, Krishna has manifested this Ras Leela to show special favor to those who have taken shelter of Madhur Ras, his amorous pastimes. So, we know from the beginning of our lives, our spiritual lives, we hear that there are 5 rasas. And each one of these 5 rasas are progressively more and more filled with intimate exchanges. And the most intimate exchanges are in Madhurya Rasa. But now, from a general objective analysis, when we analyze the 5 rasas and all the examples given by Srila Rupa Goswami, all of them are glorious. And especially, they exist, all of them exist, including Shantaras. They exist in Goloka Vrindavan. And each devotee who is situated in each rasa feels that, oh, my relationship with Krishna is the best. My rasa with Krishna is the best. They feel like that. So it's not that there's something lacking there. Each devotee feels fully satisfied in their rasa with Krishna. But yet, from a neutral position, if we analyze what constitutes each rasa, what are the qualities, the characteristics, the exchanges, everything about that rasa, there's no question that Madhurya Rasa stands far and above all the other rasas. So the Madhurya Rasa is the chief rasa which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has focused upon in his distribution of Krishna Prema. Although he can give all rasas. But we know that Rupa Goswami has specifically pointed out that there is a specific rasa that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented in the Kali Yuga to give to the jivas. And our Gurudev emphasized this shloka many, many times. What is that shloka? Anarpita charim chirat karunayavatirna kalo samarpayitum unatodvala rasam swabhakti shriyam. Those first 2 lines, here it is telling, Anarpita charim chirat. This means for an extremely long period of time, Anarpita, it has not been given. Anarpita chirinchirat. Karunayavatirna kalo. So, Karunayavatirna means that he has descended out of his karuna, out of his causeless mercy. Avatirna kalo, in the Kali Yuga. Karunayavatirna kalo. Samarpaitum means to give. To give something which has not been given for a very, very, very long time. Sometimes Gurudev says it has never been given before. You can find that in various places. Because it's so long, billions and billions of years, it might as well be that it's never been given. But in universal time, it's a very, very long time. So Rupa Goswami has pointed this out. Now he has come in this Kali Yuga to give that which has not been given for a very, very long time, since the previous day of Brahma. Since the previous Kalpa, it has not been given. And what is that? Unnata Ujvala Rasa Swa Bhakti Shriyam. So those devotees who have been so fortunate to be with our Gurudev and to study his teachings, they know how Gurudev translated these words, this line. Who can tell? What is the meaning? Samarpaitum Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swa Bhakti Shriyam. He has specifically come to give Unnata Ujvala Rasa Swa Bhakti Shriyam. What is the meaning of Unnata Ujvala Rasa?
Unnata means most exalted, topmost.
Yes.
And Ujjvala means brilliant. And Rasa, so that refers to Madhur Ras.
Yes. Yes. Ujvala Ras.
Ujjvala Ras.
Srila Rupa Goswami has told in his book, the sequel to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and it is specifically written for those who have tried to take shelter of the Madhurya Rasa. It's called what? Ujjvala Nilamani. Ujjvala. This is Ujjvala Ras. But here it is telling Unnata Ujjvala Rasa. That's very important to understand why Rupa Goswami used the word Unnata. Because in Ujjvala Rasa there are also many levels. But Unnata means topmost. And that specifically refers to only one personality. There cannot be some competition for the topmost position. Then it is told Swa Bhakti. Why the words Swa Bhakti are given there? Swa means one's own bhakti. Do you know why Swa Bhakti?
Because our own bhakti.
No, absolutely wrong. Don't guess. If you don't know, don't guess. Swa Bhakti. Here it is saying in relation to Unnata Ujjvala Rasa Swa Bhakti. Because this is another identifying adjective. Identifying what? Srimati Radhika. Because Radhika is Krishna's own personification of bhakti, and not just bhakti. She is bhakti, and she is what? She is the highest form of bhakti. And what is the highest form of bhakti? We say it all the time. We say that Srimati Radhika is the personification of what? Mahabhav. Mahabhav. So here Rupa Goswami is very nicely told here that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says in the next couple of verses, he identifies who this is that has descended in the Kali Yuga. But up to this point he's not telling. He's only telling what he has come to give, which has not been given for a very long time. But there's one more last word in this line, which completes the line, which is very essential, because if you don't include that last word, you don't know what this personality has descended in the Kali Yuga out of his causeless mercy to give, which has never been given before. And what is that? What's the last word in the line? What is it?
Shriyam.
Shriyam. So what does Shriyam mean? Beauty. The beauty. Yes. Krasata. The beauty. Shriyam. So here, he said, Unnata Ujvala Rasa Swa Bhakti. That's Radhika. But now Shriyam comes. The beauty of that bhakti, of her bhakti. And I'm just remembering now, it's coming back to me, these impressions of traveling with Srila Gurudev to Australia for the first time. And you can read his lectures because it was compiled in a book, and now it's titled The Pinnacle of Devotion. And Srila Gurudev really went over this very carefully. So what is Shriyam? The beauty of Radha's. The beauty of Srimati Radhika's Unnata Ujvala Mahabhav Prem Ras. What is the beauty of that? It's called Manjari. Manjari Bhav. Manjari mood. Palyadasi Bhav. The very mood which the eternal maid servants of Srimati Radhika possess, that no one else possesses or ever will possess or even come close to it. Some people try to say that, oh, there are a certain type of cowherd boy who is very intimate with Krishna, and he knows about Krishna's exchanges with the Braja Gopis. What is that type of cowherd boy called? Priya Narmasaka. Some persons want to put forward the theory that they also can experience what the Manjaris experience. And this is absolutely unfounded anywhere in all the Shastras, in all the books of Rupa Goswami and so forth. So that's a big topic, which at some point we can analyze in the future. That's all very beautifully presented in the Ujvala Nilamani, in great, great, great detail. And what are the staibabs, and what are the auxiliary moods, and so forth. This is all a very great science. But for our understanding in this topic, we're discussing this verse, that Rupa Goswami has now identified who is the person that has come to give that which has never been given before, or at least for billions of years. And it is only this. Samarpaitum unatojvala rasam swabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipita. Oh, he has appeared in a radiantly beautiful golden form to give that which has not been given. Hari purata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipita, like millions of suns, shining like millions of suns. Sada hridaya kandare spuratu vaha sachinanda. Now Rupa Goswami identifies in this last line. He leaves it a mystery until the last line. Who is this being spoken of here? But now he says, may that Lord be situated sada, always, eternally, hridaya kandare spuratu, may he be manifested within the what? The cave, the most secluded, confidential place in your heart, in everyone's heart. He's giving this blessing in this shloka. Sadahridaya Kandale Spuratu Va. Va means to all. Then he says, who's that? Who's that? Sachinandana. Sachinandana Gaura Hari. He has descended to give this. This is the business of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To receive this that he has come to give. And in order to receive this specific mercy that Mahaprabhu has come to give, that has never and never will be ever given by anyone else in any other time period in this universe or any universe. So who wants to receive that? They will have to then follow Rupa Goswami. They'll have to follow the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were the intimate disciples of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave all of the Shastras to give what Mahaprabhu wanted to give. We know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave Krishna Prem. Don't we know that? Yes. It is very clearly told in the authorized biographies. He didn't even just only give it to human beings. We have the beautiful diorama exhibition here on the top level of Gurudev's Samadhi, where you see the bears, the monkeys, and the other forest animals of Mahaprabhu dancing, and they're overwhelmed with Krishna Prem. Who can do that? Did anyone else ever do that? No, they can never do that. But specifically giving this gift. So everything that Rupa Goswami has written is for giving this. And initially he has written Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is now the beginning, all the first steps to enter into the pathway of the eligibility to taste and experience Bhakti Rasa. That's what the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is. So beginning from the first stages. And this is why Srila Prabhupada, in giving the Krishna consciousness movement of Mahaprabhu to the whole world, he had to bring this book of Rupa Goswami in the very beginning. We remember, it was there on the book stand. And when I came into the Detroit temple, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Classic. What Prabhupada gave in those books, the very foundation that every single devotee will need to understand and enter into. I was telling my godbrothers and godsisters the other day that I'm reading the Nectar of Devotion again from a very special vantage point. I'm reading it now after so many years, after having heard what Srila Gurudev has given, after having read what he's given, and Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, but especially in Gurudev's books, what he has given. And now I'm understanding it in such a way that I never understood it before. We all thought that we had some grasp, some understanding, but also level of appreciation. I've noticed the level of appreciation of it is surprisingly completely different than before. So that gives me a little bit of hope for my own predicament. Yes. So the Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction Prabhupada gave. But Gurudev continued from there. Of course, he had already been doing that prior to coming to the Western countries. He had already been giving the most essential literatures by the order of his Guru Maharaj, our Param Gurudev Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, instructed him to give all these essential literatures in the Hindi language. They were not available previously before Gurudev to the national language of India. Just imagine. It was out of their grasp. So Gurudev did that incredible feat, and then due to his devotion to our Srila Prabhupada, he followed his instruction that he gave to him in his final days, help my disciples, and then Gurudev set out to give this to the entire world. Not just to a few stray individuals who came to his room in Mathura, thinking themselves to be very elevated, advanced devotees from a particular institution. No. It went far beyond that. And Gurudev gave the books. And those books are now permanent. No one can ever take them away. And this is the evidence. This is the proof that who he is, his qualification to give this. So we only can count our blessings that we had and have such opportunity to receive from such a personality who is chosen directly by our Rupanuga Guru Varga in this day and age. And he also traveled 15 years and gave it to the whole world. So this is very important to understand, because there were certain individuals who were objecting to this. They were objecting to holding conferences with large groups of Vaishnavas and speaking such level of katha and lila katha from 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in particular. But those persons who were objecting, first of all, they have no right to object, because the very fact that they're objecting means they themselves are not qualified to hear this. It's like a symptom that they themselves are not qualified. Oh, sorry. Pulling on that. Yes. So. But the fact that he gave it, and now it can never be retracted. Now they're there. The books are there. It's like Srila Prabhupada, you know. Those who are book distributors know these quotes very, very well. We have some very weathered book distributors in our room who went for decades out on the streets all over the world distributing Prabhupada's books. But Srila Prabhupada was very keen, very eager, and very, very serious that as many books as possible, we're talking about hundreds of millions, should be distributed throughout the world. And they were. And they are still being. And they're also in all different languages as well. And why is that? Because just by those books being present in people's homes, even if it's just sitting on the bookshelf, you know who told this? Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Srila Sridhar Maharaj told to Ramaswar, who was, there's an audio of Ramaswar interviewing him before all the controversy began. And he's talking about what books Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur presented in English language. And then Ramaswar mentioned Brahma Samhita. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, no, Prabhupada has not presented Brahma Samhita in English. And you hear Ramaswar's voice saying, but Prabhupada said that it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati who gave this. No, but then we found out later, it's not. Who is it? It's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who gave a Bengali translation of Jiva Goswami's commentary on Brahma Samhita, and then that was translated into the English language, not by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but by Professor Nishikanta Sanyal. And that's how the BBT version, which says written by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, no, is not written by him, but he edits it, but it's not written. At any rate, so I veered off track a second. There was one point I was going to make. Yes. So then, Ramaswar wants to get as much nectar from Srila Sridhar Maharaj concerning book distribution, right? Because that's his primary role, is to feed all this nectar to the book distributors and increase the number of books being distributed, they'll become all enlivened and excited and they'll go out and distribute millions of books. So then Srila Sridhar Maharaj said one very unique thing. He said, actually, these books, even if someone has them in their home and only sitting on the shelf, divine rays are coming from these books. And then you hear Ramaswami says, did you hear that? Divine rays are coming from these books. Yes?
Could you touch on the importance of knowing the provenance of these commentaries and shastras? You mentioned about that confusion with Saraswati Thakur and Brahma Samhita. So what's the importance of knowing the provenance or the history of the translations and who gave what?
Well, first of all, it's not appropriate if the question is being asked, which books were written in English by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati? And you're asking to one of the top scholars of all of his disciples. And you're saying that we understand that it's written, this Brahma Samhita is written by him. We all thought that. Because Prabhupada also read, he read on that record album, the Brahma Samhita, and then he read from there. The materialistic demi-nod cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat who is forever inviting the conditioned souls to associate with him through some devotion, pure devotion, like that. We heard it so many times. We always thought, wow, the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they're so amazing. His language. So, anyway, but later on, we understood, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj pointed it out. And then Gurudev presented also the version. Also Srila Sridhar Maharaj, while he was present, his followers presented the Brahma Samhita, and it has the Bengali version of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary, which is actually translating into Bengali Jiva Goswami's commentary. And then that Bengali is being translated into English. But why does it sound like the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? We became somewhat familiar with his language. Why? Because that was the language that the highly, highly educated, aristocratic Sanskrit scholars who were trained in the English language in the British universities of India at that time, during the British Raj, that's how, the very highly elevated, that's how they spoke. And Professor Nishikanta Sanyal, I forget his initiation name, but he was on that level. He had that kind of vocabulary, plus he knew very well the way that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur expressed himself in the English language. So that's how it came to be somewhat confused. But yeah, it's essential to know who wrote what commentary. That's, huh?
And to give proper
and to to give proper credit, not just for the publication, but so that we're also acknowledging in our heart as we're reading, because we have to pray to the lotus feet of these personalities that please come into my heart, as Gurudev has told so many times. So we should not be praying to the wrong personality, as we're reading their commentary. Yeah. So, continuing on. So Gurudev is saying, oh yes, this paragraph, very important. He's saying that Bhagavan performs his pleasure-filled pastimes to bestow mercy upon his devotees. And that will be elucidated much, much more as we go into this introduction and also the Venu Gita. So, indeed, he, Bhagavan, has manifested this Ras Leela to show special favor to those who have taken shelter of Madhur Rasa, his amorous pastimes. Hearing about, now here's a very important sentence. It contains a lot in this sentence. Hearing about the sweet moods of the Madhur Rasa Gopis, the devotees become inspired to enter Rag Marg Bhajan, the path of spontaneous devotion under the guidance of the Gopis. It's right there in one sentence. That's why we should hear it. So that we become inspired by hearing about the sweet moods of the Madhur Ras Gopis. Then the devotees become inspired to enter Rag Marg Bhajan, the path of spontaneous devotion. And how will they do that? Under the guidance of the Gopis. Because this is something we don't really talk about that much. But it was a very primary subject when Mahaprabhu was inquiring from Ramananda Roy how to get it, how to attain this. What is the sadhya? What is the sadhana? And please give me also praman and evidence to prove each and every point that you're making. At the beginning of their discussion, Mahaprabhu wanted this from Ramananda Roy. And finally, at the end, Ramananda Roy came to this. There is no other way. Except what? To follow in the footsteps of the Braja Gopis. There is no other way. There is no other way. So that will have to become the supremely most important aspect of our attempt to enter into Rag Marg Bhakti, Rag Marg Bhajan, and Rupanuga Bhajan. It is the most important. That we'll have to come to that final conclusion. Now, is that of very primary importance for very beginning level devotees who are just now learning something about Krishna and He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and so forth? No. It's not so important for them. Not at all. And this is why Srila Prabhupada did not speak about it very much. It's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Srila Prabhupada did not speak about it because he was always speaking to audiences which are full of brand spanking new devotees. And then brand spanking new 1 year, 2 year, 3 year devotees. Okay? But when Gurudev came to the West, who was he speaking to? He was speaking to devotees who had been chanting for 20 years, 25 years, like that. And now they needed to hear this. Just so we have to close the windows during this, otherwise it will drown out. Alright. So I'm just going to read a little bit more. Now, Lord Brahma and Lord Indra, they had a doubt about Sri Krishna being the Supreme Godhead. We know about that from Srimad Bhagavatam. For 1 year, after Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys, Krishna himself took the forms of those calves and those cowherd boys. This convinced Brahma of the truth. And he offered prayers glorifying Sri Krishna as Parabrahma, the Supreme Lord. Now Indra, he was also skeptical, and he sent torrential rains, but his pride was smashed when Sri Krishna held Giriraj Govardhan aloft. Indra then came with the Surabhi cow to beg forgiveness and to perform Abhishek of Krishna. Now Kamadev, you know who Kamadev is? We're going to now understand who is Kamadev. Kamadev also thought that Krishna was an ordinary cowherd boy and he came to defeat him. The proud Kamadev had already conquered Sri Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and other demigods who had previously thought that the cause of all causes, Sri Krishna, to be ordinary. But Kamadev challenged Krishna, and he summoned him to enter the arena. Did you ever hear about this one? Where Kamadev is challenging Krishna directly that he should enter this arena. Okay? And Krishna gladly accepted the challenge. Millions of gopis formed an impenetrable circle, and Kamadev stepped inside. It was a beautiful full moon night on the bank of the Yamuna, where fragrant breezes were blowing through the secluded bowers. All of these elements manifested to serve Kamadev's purpose. But Sri Krishna performed Ras Leela, and when Kamadev witnessed Krishna's supreme beauty in the circle of the gopis, he was stupefied. Indeed, Manmata Manmata, Sri Krishna soundly defeated him. Bhagavan Sri Krishna ki. Did you know that? Yes. See how we find out so many tidbits of nectar from Gurudev?
I'm forgetting the details of when Kamadev tried to affect Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva burnt him with his lance, so he doesn't have a body.
He just tried to tempt him. Kamadev with lust. And he got burnt. That's why he's ananda. Has no body. Alright, it goes on. Bhagavan Sri Veda Vyasa's son, who's that? Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, was completely renounced throughout his whole life. Shukadeva Goswami. This crown jewel of swan-like liberated sages was beyond the influence of the illusory energy. Indeed, he did not even know the difference between male and female. If this Ras Leela were a mundane, lusty affair, then such an exalted personality would not have described this in front of all the Deva Rishis, sages, demigods, Maharishis, great sages, Vipra Rishis, Brahman sages, and Raja Rishis, saintly kings who were present in Sri Parikshit Maharaj's assembly. If it were something vulgar, then he would have referred to Sri Krishna as Bhogeshwar, the king of enjoyers, and Kameshwar, the lord of lust. But indeed, he addressed him as Atmaram, who finds his satisfaction within. And also Yogeshwar, the supreme master of all mystic powers. At the end of the Ras Leela, Sri Shukadev said, Vikrinitam vrajavadubir idam cha Vishnu. And this is just an excerpt from a verse that we're going to deeply study in the next class when we read Venugit introduction. At the very end of the Ras Leela, Shukadeva Goswami made this declaration, that hearing this pastime of Sri Krishna, who is the hero of Ras Leela, completely expels the disease of lust in the heart and bestows the supreme bhakti at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. That's from 10th Canto, 33rd chapter, verse 39, right at the end of the 5 Ras Panchadhyaya chapters. So it is said that Ras Leela is the pastime of Krishna's victory over Kandarpa. Therefore, he has earned the title Sakshat Manmata. Manmata. Where was that told? Yes. That Krishna appeared to be directly Sakshat Manmata. Manmata. Who is Manmata? Kamadev. And who bewilders Kamadev? Manmata Manmata. The bewilderer of the bewilderer. Right? So, therefore he has earned the title Sakshat Manmata Manmata, directly the enchanter of Cupid. And devotees call him Madan Mohan, he who bewilders Cupid. That's a good name of Krishna's. Madan Mohan. Mohan means to do what? To completely bewilder someone. To place them in moha, illusion. So Krishna is called Madan Mohan. We love that name of Krishna. Because without Krishna being Madan Mohan, do you know what? We would not be able to enter into this highest bhakti. Because that's Madan Mohan is the Adhishtatri Devata of what? Sambandha Gyan. Knowledge of relationship. So, and that deity, Madan Mohan deity, is the deity who bestows this. And how does he do it? By completely, his bewildering beauty, his extraordinary qualities, everything about him is shockingly bewildering to everyone. Everyone becomes stunned by him. Madan Mohan, stunned. They can't even move. There are so many leelas where various individuals become stunned upon seeing Krishna. That form of Krishna, who will attract us. Who will attract us away from what? Away from everything that is miserable, low grade, vile, and rejectable of this material world. The so-called enjoyment of the temporary enjoyment of the temporary body senses in this world, which is keeping us here in this miserable condition for lifetimes and lifetimes. But that Madan Mohan, he will attract us out of this. So therefore, we like to read. We want to read about him and about how he is the most attractive and how his most beautiful, topmost, perfected, eternal associates, the Braja Gopis, who are the topmost beautiful and qualified in the whole creation, how they become completely mesmerized and attracted by him. We sing that every morning in the song that we sing after Mangalarti. You know which one? Yuhabari Shesha. And the second last verse. Come on. No, but Ananda. Yes. Prema Niketana. Kula Shara. Yojaka. Kama. Srila Gurudev glorified this one line of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How he showed that Krishna is he increases. Ananda Vardhana. What kind of increasing? An ocean. An unlimited ocean. Ananda Vardhana. Prema Niketana. He is the very object of who? Pulashara Yoga Jatakama. By every single one of his features of his body, and his eyes, and all of his different features are like flower arrows. Pulashara Yojakakama. That he is causing the calm of the Braja Devis to increase. But not the mundane lust. Oh no. This is the highest calm. Gopanganagana chitta vinodana. Samasta Guna Gana Dham, because He is the absolute, complete abode of all the incredible qualities that could ever be possessed by anyone. And He possesses them to the infinite degree. Infinite, infinite, infinite. Gopanganagana. That means the Braja Gopis. Gopanganagana. Chitta Vinodana. Vinod. Do we know what the word Vinod means? We better, because our deities are named what? Radha Vinod Vihari. And what does that mean? Giving Vinod to who? Radha. The highest absolute happiness. In Unata Ujjvala Prem Ras, of course. Right? So, Chitta Vinodan Samasta Jamuna Jivana Keli Parayana Manasa Chandra Chakora. The life of Yamuna. Because Yamuna is Vishaka Devi. And all of Krishna's pastimes are going on the banks of the Yamuna. That's why He's constantly hunting. He is scouring the banks of the Yamuna on both sides. There's that one verse. I memorized it once, but I forgot. By Raghupati Upadhyay in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there he's saying how Krishna is hunting the gopis on the banks of the Yamuna. Yeah. He's the ultimate hunter. And He has certain arrows that He pierces His prey with. Right? So Jamuna Jivana Keli Parayana. Keli Parayana means Krishna is so absorbed. He's so much absorbed in Keli, in playful, sweet, blissful pastimes. Keli Parayana. Manasa Chandra Chakora. Why Chakora? Because we know, Rupa Goswami is told that a Chakora bird, it will only drink the water from the rain clouds, no other water. So Krishna is the moon that attracts the minds of the Chakori gopis, who are like Chakora birds. Manasa Chandra Chakora. Nam Sudha Rasa Gau Krishna Yasha. So much rasa is here. Gurudev, when he tried to express this in these last two shlokas of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, it's just like unbounded nectar that he's placed in these two shlokas. And we sing them every morning. And we try to sprinkle our hearts with the moods that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has put in these songs. Nam Sudha Rasa Gau Krishna Yasha Rako Vachana Manam. Oh my dear mind, please become completely fixed in that personality. Manasa Chandra Chakora Nam Sudha Rasa Gau Krishna Yasha Rako Vachana Manam. Please hear my words, my dear mind. Please hear my words. I'm trying to suggest something very good to you. And then from that point on, in that song, now we read Manasiksha of Raghunath Das Goswami, how to speak to the mind. And how to enter very deep into all of the pastimes of Krishna and all of His eternal associates and all the Madhurya Rasa pastimes. And especially, the Manasiksha is simply about Radha and Krishna. Every single verse. Radha and Krishna, the divine youthful couple in Braja. So how all these books that Gurudev gave, how they connect, how essential they are for us, how necessary it is for us to make a concerted effort to study them systematically. Systematically. How will it will enhance our bhajan life. Without that, we cannot do it. But with that, we can do it. It's possible. But it will also take some very, very serious what? Effort? Surrender. Surrender. Sharanagati. Yes. It will require that. But one good thing about Sharanagati, although it's there from the very beginning of our spiritual life, from the very beginning. You walk into the temple, you've never heard of Krishna in some country on the planet, and all of a sudden, your path in bhakti has suddenly begun. Because now, you walk into the temple and you're seeing Krishna, and you're smelling the incense, and somebody comes and gives you a flower garland, and invites you, oh, please stay for lunch. Now you're eating Krishna Prasada. So, you're already doing Sharanagati. Why? Because accepting everything favorable and rejecting everything unfavorable. But ultimately, the ultimate unfavorable things have been pointed out by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Why? In 4 slokas in the Manasiksha, he points that out. Because without addressing this, without confronting this in our hearts, and without doing the necessary bhajan to make our hearts full of nectar and capable to follow and to traverse this path, without doing that, it will not be possible. So therefore he has put it there in the Manasiksha. But the solution to every dilemma is always what? Nectar, nectar, and more nectar. That's what the Manasiksha is all about. It's all about nectar. And it culminates with the last verse, the last shloka, the 12th shloka. We're in, or is it the 11th? I forget. We're in, yes, Panchamritam. Panchamritam means the 5 types of nectar. And daily. Yes. So we're going to read all that. We're going to try to really get a vrishti, like a rain cloud of nectar. That's what these books, that's why Gurudev gave them to us. And he says it over and over and over again in his books. That here you have to become immersed in this nectar. So what a nice life. Who else has this, huh? I challenge anyone, anywhere in the world to bring forth your process by which you think that you're going to attain whatever perfection it is that you think is perfection, right? Or even in the spiritual, pseudo-spiritual realm that you think. And you just put it here, put it right here on our table. And then we're going to stack up, next to that, we're going to stack up all of our books, which go in a pillar, like up to the sky. And you've got your one tiny little book there with a bunch of useless commentaries for your so-called philosophy. So therefore, we just think that if you're really intelligent, my dear sir, then you will do what Prabodhananda Saraswati Pad has suggested. I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit now. It's the verse in his, where he's saying, oh yes. Hey Sacha Sakalas, Hey Sadhu Sakala Evam Duranta Eva Chaitanya Chandra Kuru Rata. Anyway, can't remember the Sanskrit exactly, but here he's giving the method of preaching. This verse, and our Prabhupada used to quote this verse also. Prabodhananda Saraswati says, this is how you preach to someone about Krishna. You come up to him and you say, oh my dear sir, you are so learned. You are such a saintly person. Hey Sadhu, Sakala. Yeah, Sadhu, that's what he said. Hey Sadhu. So you are so qualified in so many ways. But I'm requesting you. Now, you please take all of that and throw it at a far distance. And now, simply, Chaitanya Chandra Charane, Kuru Ragatam, something like that. Just become attached to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Chandra. So this is our method of preaching. Yeah. We give credit to them. We also give even some, how do you say, some favorable words, glorifying them, so that they will become receptive to us. But then we have to tell them the truth. That if you're really sadhava, hey sadhava, take all of this and just abandon it at a far, far distance and take shelter of the lotus feet of Chaitanya Chandra. So this is our movement. This is the only way that we will preach now and for the rest of this Danya Kali Yuga. Because we are not at all shy in presenting what Mahaprabhu has come to give. And if you listen to the earliest recordings of Srila Prabhupada, who recorded himself, you see how he preaches to the people. Undaunted. And he didn't even have a society or followers or anything. But everyone has to fulfill what Mahaprabhu has told, that first of all, Janma Sarta Kori. First, make your Janma successful. Sartak. Fulfill the purpose of your human birth in this life now. And Para Upakar. Para Upakar means give upakar, give benefit. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj would say, do welfare work for all jivas. That's the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no such thing as a pure devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who does not have this desire in his heart to give mercy to all the suffering jivas. Some of them will be Goshtianandis and some of them will be Bhajananandis. But whoever comes to them, even Gorkishore Das Babaji, you read all the advice that he gave. Even Vamshi Das Babaji, who's not even in this world practically. But these are the pure devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are the most merciful. So we should try to become like that. Although we're very unqualified, but we should try, in whatever time is remaining in this body, in this life, to become more and more and more qualified. And then you know what's going to happen? We had a whole discussion about this the other day, and I'm going to bring that into my class also. The wonderful excerpt from the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada's book. What will happen? Oh, Krishna will make the arrangement for you, Gurudev told, in your next life. And you cannot even imagine what arrangement He will make for you. No? Because Krishna is going to situate you in the most favorable condition so that in that life you can attain the stage of bhav. That's why Gurudev used to say, I am simply praying to Krishna that all of you, and he's looking at the huge audience, all of you can attain what in this life? Ruchi. That all of you can attain Ruchi in this life. I'm simply praying to Krishna. Then he said, but if not Ruchi, at least Nishta, at least. So Gurudev said, if we simply try in this life to give everything, to surrender everything, to be a real Vaishnava, a real Sharanagata Bhakta, then Gurudev said you cannot imagine what arrangement Krishna is going to make for you in your next life. And he said, very, very high auspicious birth. And here's the bonus. Krishna's giving a bonus. Along with this arrangement and gift, he gives a bonus. And this bonus is all important. He will give you the samskaras that you need. Without the samskaras, no one can attain the stage of bhav. So because you tried, Krishna is going to reward you because he's very, very merciful. And in that life, you will attain bhav. And higher, very, very high sadhu sangha, very high sadhu sangha, you'll have in that life. Even in this life now, but especially in that life, because without that, it is not possible for someone to come into the stage of bhav. And it is told there very directly, there are only two ways. Either by very, very intensive association with exalted, pure devotees of Krishna who have all these sweet moods within their heart in your previous life. That's one qualification for someone to attain this perfection in this life. And the other qualification is in this life, to associate with such level of devotees who have those moods within their heart. So that means there is only this one way. Only by the association of such personalities. But in order to associate with those personalities and to be properly equipped to receive what those personalities can give to us, we have to follow this process. No one will be able to without following this process. And even if we're imperfect in trying to follow the process, but if we are sincere, then Krishna's mercy and Sadhu's mercy can come to us. So there's lots of hope for us. So we'll study these books. I'm sorry I went over time. But today is Mahadvadashi, correct? Yes? And so today at the Prasadam room they are serving very nice Mahadvadashi, Mahaprasadam, for all the devotees, Anukalpa Prasadam. And then we can use the rest of the day to hear and chant, right? Because Mahadvadashi is not a day to waste time. It's a day to be absorbed in devotional activities. So thank you very much for coming. Gaur Premanande. Jai Srila Gurudeva ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Panchatattva ki Jai, Shri Radha Govinda ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Ras Panchadhyay ki Jai, Jai Mahadvadashi Titi ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Bhakti Pranidevi Satchavachai Namo Namo Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.